When Umar, the second Caliph after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, visited Jerusalem, he happened to be in the city's largest church when the time for prayer had come. At that moment, the bishop offered him the chance to pray in the church. The Caliph Umar replied, "No, for if I pray in this church today, my followers may annex it after I am gone, and no longer able to protect your rights." When caliphate exists on the precepts of justice, consideration for the rights of others, and an overall deep will for peace, as defined by the Quran and the Prophet himself, then caliphate has the ability to serve as a grand force for good in the world.
Again, I say that it is a cause of great pain and concern to me that these evil acts are all being associated with Islam. Nowadays, it is a major concern that Muslim youths from the West are traveling to countries like Syria and Iraq, where they are being radicalized. It is quite possible that they could eventually return to their home countries and launch attacks or cause great disorder in this part of the world. Thus, clearly, this is no longer a local or Muslim issue. It is an international issue that requires a global and concerted effort to stop these extremist organizations. Some prominent figures have suggested that it will take 30 or even 100 years for this war with extremism to conclude. Personally, I believe that the militants and extremist groups can be stopped in a much shorter period of time if the world is determined to eradicate them. We must not think that we are free from our personal responsibilities simply by saying it will take decades to end this war. Rather, everyone must join in this effort to counter global extremism. To simply lay the blame at the feet of Islam or particular groups will not save us from warfare or free us from our responsibilities. Thus, all peaceful people should pressurize their governments, and certainly all figures of influence should reflect on this and seek to develop peace in the world by promoting true justice in their respective spheres of influence, by taking firm action to prevent the destruction of world peace completely. If we want to save the world, then true justice needs to be shown at every level of society, and the problems faced in each country should be solved in a fair way that removes frustrations. No country's wealth should be looked upon enviously, and mutual policies should be made to help one another. Most importantly, the world must realize that it has forgotten its Creator, and they must come back to Him. Only when this happens can true peace be established.
Well, one of the things I enjoy about coming to the peace symposiums that the Ahmadi community holds is to listen to His Holiness. I always find him inspirational, and I think tonight his message was even more important than ever. And I felt the way that he talked about the threat of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, and the way he showed that ISIS has nothing to do with the faith of Islam, I thought was extremely persuasive.
His Holiness gave a speech that was incredibly powerful, that set out all of the claims that violent groups like ISIS made and then totally demolished them in terms of what the Quran actually says. I think for a lot of people sat in the room, it helped them really understand what true Islam is actually about and how this message of peace is really at the heart of it.
But the Holiness, I just thought, it's incredible, because all the things he was saying were going through my mind, and I could actually relate to nearly everything that he said, which actually I think probably surprised me for some reason. I don't know why. I just found it very, very moving. I'm really pleased I came. I can't say more than that.
I have been so inspired this evening by hearing His Holiness speak. It has been such a clear, cogent and powerful message. It has given an insight into Islam that I think everyone should have. It is such an important message he has for the world.
He is known by world leaders for his humanitarian efforts and his mission for world peace, anchored by his famous slogan of love for all, hatred for none.
For His Holiness, the slogan, love for all, hatred for none, really comes to life. And I have borne witness to His Holiness waging a jihad of love, opposing the jihad of the sword with the jihad of the pen and of love itself.
And it is an honor to welcome you, Your Holiness. Your leadership has made you a figure of global prominence, and you have become a guide for millions of Muslims worldwide.
Your Holiness, it is undoubtedly a reflection of the blessing that you bring to this capital.
Today, this man, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, is the Caliph of Islam. His followers number in the tens of millions, spread over 200 countries across the world, making him the leader of the largest single group of Muslims in the world who follow one Imam. The Caliph, who has spoken at Capitol Hill, the British Parliament, the European Parliament, and has held court with dozens of world leaders, is celebrated as a champion of peace by leaders across the world.
In this we are allied with His Holiness, a courageous champion of religious freedom and of peace. We especially applaud the Caliphate for denouncing those who pervert faith by claiming it as a justification for violence. However we define God, it is wrong to kill in His name.
I will, God willing, always continue to carry out my task and my responsibilities of promoting peace, tolerance, justice, and compassion to the corners of the world.